Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome to our Talk It Through Tuesdays, where we talk about difficult conversations that you need to have at work. My name is Dr. Lola Gershfeld, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I do this live streams with my daughter, Polina, but she's not here today. So she is actually in Honolulu doing some grand opening for a hotel, and I'm here with you. So last time we talked about Matthew and Alan, who got into a disconnection on really working on a project. And Matthew is a marketing manager. Alan is a marketing manager, and Matthew is a software engineer. And they were working on a project to create a new website for the company. And Alan was actually worried to make sure that it will be done. And he got reassurance from Matthew's manager that it's going to be done. Well, Matthew made a decision not to work on the project because he had a big backlog, and he told Alan that he's going to drop the project. So that created a big, huge disconnect for Alan and Matthew. And since they work together, they really want to be connected, and they're having a really hard time of talking about it. Using the emotional connection process, we use the reconnection form to help people repair their disconnection and talk about what happened without getting into the negative interactions where they start to blame or judge and criticize or maybe defend their position or shut down. So we use this reconnection form, and it has several components. The first one is what prompted the disconnect. People can identify whether it is words, facial expression, tone of voice, behavior, or action or decision. So this is very important to really recognize what triggered the disconnect. The second part, box 2A, is about the raw spots. Everybody has raw spots, so it's very important to recognize and know your raw spots, so we can identify and be very clear on how did it impact us when these words or facial expression or tone of voice triggered us. Box 3 is the emotions, right? It's the internal experience, what happened on the surface level, softer level, and then primary level. We also go into describing the image, because the image is very important to recognize the depth of that emotional experience. And then in the body, what happened for the body, what happened in terms of the worst fears about yourself, about the other person, and about the relationship. And then the next box is the negative cycle, actually what happens to you at that moment. So automatic thoughts that happen for you, and then what do you do to protect yourself? So all of these components basically go step by step, identifying the experience that you had because of that trigger. And then, so this is person A, and this is person B that you do each side, because then it will be very easy for people to share their experience, validate, and that's what we want. We want to repair the relationship before we resolve the conflict, because if we start to resolve the conflict before we work on the relationship, then it's going to be very difficult for us, because during the disconnection, our amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, hijacks the prefrontal cortex, which really allows us to be open to other experiences, to be empathic, to communicate easily. But if we are not connected, this prefrontal cortex is very limited because of the hijack that happens during the disconnection. And it's very limited because we cannot access really the prefrontal cortex. So we want to be able to go through the process of reconnection and understanding what happened for us in each of the parties' experience, And then what do we need to feel safe and connected? So what we are going to do is we're going to just take each part as we did last two streams that we talked about Alan's experience, and then we talked about Matthew's experience. So as a recap, Alan got triggered when Matthew said we can't do the project. So it's his action, his behavior. And the raw spots that hit for Alan was being rejected. Or this says being excluded, but it's also being excluded or rejected. Number 2, not being valued. Someone turns away from you. Number 5. And then someone feels like you don't deserve something. So these raw spots are sensitivities that Alan experienced in the moment when Matthew made a decision of not doing the project, not following through with the project, and just dropping it off. Okay. And on the surface side, he felt frustrated, upset, disturbed, tense, betrayed, confused, and alone. On the softer side, Alan felt unimportant, let down, hurt, panicked, rejected, and abandoned, and not valued. And on the primary side, he felt fear that he's going to be now answering to the CEO. He's going to let the CEO down and not complete the project on time. He felt sad for the loss of connection with Matthew because it's very important to him that they have a good relationship as a working relationship because they work on a lot of projects. And he was also very surprised that Matthew would make such a decision. And for the image, he felt like somebody just dropped him into a hole. And here he is in the hole, and he's asking for Matthew to help. And then Matthew just walks by and does not even notice him. On the bodiless sensation, I didn't write it here, but he felt sort of chest pain, he said. And that's also representative of fear. So on his worst fears about himself is that he feels like I'm failing, I'm alone in this. And the worst fear about Matthew is that Matthew doesn't care about me. And then the worst fear about the relationship is that we're going to be disconnected. So box 3 is very, very important. It actually talks to the amygdala. So when we organize emotions and when we give names to emotions and we really talk about the image, the bodily sensation, the worst fears, we are actually slowing emotions down. We are helping the amygdala to relax. And in that moment, when the amygdala is relaxed, now we are able to actually look at the options. We are able to recognize what do we do to also contribute to the negative cycle. And everything becomes a lot easier for us to understand and process when the prefrontal cortex is accessible to us. The automatic thoughts for Alan was, I have to stop you, and how dare you. And these are very common automatic thoughts for a pursuer. A pursuer is the person who wants to repair the connection, and he's pursuing the connection, right? In the moment when people get disconnected, we take one of two positions. We either pursue the connection actively, or we preserve the connection, which is we withdraw, avoid, distance. Both people want to be connected, especially when people depend on each other. So then his automatic thoughts is, I have to stop you, how dare you. And then the protective behaviors is he went judging, lecturing, criticizing, complaining, and defending his position. So this is what Alan did in his process of responding to this disconnection or to this trigger when Matthew says, I'm not going to do this project. And so that is a very difficult place to be in. Obviously, you get out of balance, you make maybe rash decisions, you maybe overreact. And so it's very important for us to learn how to slow things down and how to process the experience that happens for us so we can be more aligned and we can be more in balance when we make the next step. And for Matthew, as you can see, Matthew, he felt attacked he felt triggered by the words that Alan used. He felt he got triggered by his criticism and judgment and complaining and blaming. He also felt triggered by not being invited to meetings while they were talking about the project. He felt excluded. His raw spots were being excluded. Number two, not being valued. Number eight, show of disapproval by Alan criticizing him and judging him. And number 11, being judged as not good enough. Okay. So as you can see, Matthew had 4 raw spots hit for him in that moment. And his surface emotions, he felt upset, he felt disturbed, tense, he felt confused, alone. And on the softer side, he felt worried, shaky, hurt, panicked, intimidated, and overwhelmed and not heard. And on primary emotions, he felt fear, sad, shame, and surprise. So these are very common experiences that people have when they lose connection with those they depend on. So this is very important. And for Matthew, the image was somebody was like hitting him on the head, especially when Alan was coming across with all the words. And we didn't mark this one, but what happens to Alan also, his tone of voice goes high and his speed of speech goes fast. So Matthew also gets overwhelmed. And actually, both Matthew and Alan are both pursuers. And so they both talk fast. They both, raise their voice. So everybody's kind of like throwing bullets at each other. And for Matthew, his automatic thoughts was, I have to stop you. I don't care. And how dare you? And he started to blame, judge, defend, demand, lecture, criticize, and complain the same way as Alan did. So as you can see, both people are trying to get the connection back. They are protesting the disconnection. They are behaving in a way that creates more and more disconnection because they are using these protective behaviors, blaming, judging, criticizing. So what we want is we want to slow things down. We want for people to recognize and go step by step so they can repair that connection. They can repair the relationship before they solve any problems. And the way they do it is obviously they had a chance to fill out the form, share that with me, and then they can now share it with each other. And the way we do it is we call this a recap. In the recap, they turn to each other and they say, like Alan says, Matthew, I got triggered when you made a decision to drop the project. And my raw spots that hit for me was number 1, being rejected. Number 2, not being valued. Number 5, someone turns away from me. And number 13, like someone doesn't deserve, like I don't deserve your attention. I don't deserve you being there for me. I don't deserve that. Okay. And then I felt, and when you want to share the emotions, you don't want to share surface emotions. You always want to share softer and primary emotions because they are non-threatening. Surface emotions are threatening and people can get defensive about it. So I felt unimportant, let down, hurt, panicked, rejected, abandoned, and not valued. And then my image is as if I was dropped in a hole and you are just passing by and I'm yelling and I'm asking you to help me and you're just ignoring me. You're just passing by. And then my worst fear about myself is that I'm alone. I'm going to fail. I'm going to let the CEO down. And my automatic thoughts are, and my worst fear about you, Matthew, is that you don't care about me. And my worst fear about our relationship is we're going to be disconnected. And my bodily sensation is I have a chest pain It's like somebody's squeezing my chest. So that's very good. And then my automatic thoughts is I tell myself, how dare you? I have to stop you. And then I judge, blame, criticize, complain. But what I need is to tell me that you care about me, that my feelings are valid. Tell me that that I matter to you, that I'm important. Reassure me that I'm not alone in this. Tell me I'm valued, and acknowledge that when you made a decision to stop the project or not to do the project, that was really difficult for me. Okay. So these are attachment needs that we want to get reassurance from the other person, because in the moment when the person makes a decision, we get the message that no, that person doesn't care about us, they don't value us, they don't know even how it impacts us. So as we go through the process, as we share our experience, it becomes much more clear to the other person. So Matthew says to Alan, thank you for sharing. I do care about you. Your feelings are valid. You matter to me. You are important. And I want to reassure you that you're not alone. You are valued. And I acknowledge that when I said that I'm not going to work on this project anymore, that was really difficult for you. Okay? This is called what we call a bonding conversation, and that's very important for people to do because it creates that movement. It creates the bond. It creates that I do care about you as a human being, as a person that, as my teammate, as a colleague. I do care about you. And this is key in our relationships. So in that moment, the connection is repaired and the prefrontal cortex is opened up again. So now people have options. They can talk about what happened. So that's part one. That's for Alan. And when I say, Alan, as you hear Matthew give you this reassurance, first of all, do you believe him? And Alan says, yes, I do believe him. And I said, how does it impact you? What some of the emotions do you feel at this moment? And he said, oh, I feel connected. I feel secure. I feel safer. I feel a lot more important. I feel valued. I feel hopeful, motivated, and not alone. And I feel grateful. So these are extremely important emotions to experience in that moment. And many studies have shown that when people have an opportunity to organize their emotions, to share it in a vulnerable way, they are a much more listened to. They are being heard. The other people can attune to their experience rather than being defensive and shut down. And then I say, what can you do when you feel safer, important, valued, helpful, hopeful, motivated, not alone, and grateful? And Alan says, well, I can attend, I can respond, and I can engage with Matthew. So that's very, very important because Matthew needs to know that he's very important to Alan. He's very important, and that their relationship is very important. Because without it, they won't be able to be motivated to work and to recognize what else needs to be done or what other options can they figure out this problem together. Okay, so that's for Alan. And now Matthew has an opportunity to share what happened for him. And Matthew says, Alan, I got triggered when you didn't invite me to the meetings, when I was excluded as you were preparing for the website and writing all these and having these brainstorming sessions. You never invited me. And then when I said that we're not going to do the project, I felt like you just started to attack me and criticize and judge. And so that was very, very hurtful to me. And my raw spots in that moment, when I was not included in the meetings, was number one, being excluded. Number two, not being valued. Number 8, show of disapproval, when you started judging and criticizing me. And number 11, like being judged as not good enough. And because you're so important to me, I care about how you look at me, how you view me. So was very difficult for me when you did that. And I felt worried, shaky, hurt, panicked, intimidated, overwhelmed, and not heard. And for my primary emotions, I felt fear, sadness, shame, and surprise. So again, we want to make sure that when we share emotions, we want to come from a vulnerable place. And my image is like someone is hitting me with a, all over my head. Somebody's just beating me up with all these words and the tone of voice and just like nonstop. And my bodily sensation, I had pain in my stomach. And it's very interesting because with the chest, the emotion is actually fear. With the stomach, the emotion is shame. So our body actually tells us what emotion we're experiencing. And my worst fear about myself is that I'm failing. And my worst fear about you is you just don't see me as valued, especially when you didn't invite me to meetings. That was very, very difficult for me. And then about our relationship is we're going to be disconnected. So then my automatic thoughts is I have to stop you, I don't care, and how dare you. And then my protective behaviors is I started to blame you, I judged, I demand, I lecture, criticize, complain, and defend it. Okay, again, because Alan and Matthew are both pursuers in their response to the disconnection, they can relate to each other because they both act the same way in the moment of disconnection. But what I need, Matthew says to Alan, is I need you to tell me that you care about me, that my feelings are valid, that I matter, that I am important to you. Reassure me that I'm not alone. Tell me that I'm valued, and acknowledge that when you excluded me from meetings, that was very difficult for me. And Alan says, I do care about you. Your feelings are valid. I want you to know that you do matter to me. You are important to me. And you're not alone. I'm right here with you. You are valued. And I do acknowledge that when I excluded you, when I did not invite you to meetings, that was very difficult for you. And so I again said, Matthew, how was it for you? First of all, Alan, how was it for you to say that? Alan says, it was good because Matthew is important to me. I want to be connected with him. And so I'm glad, I really appreciate that Matthew shared what happened for him. And Matthew says, I appreciate it too. And I said, Matthew, how does it make you feel? Can you take it in? Do you believe Alan? He said, yes, absolutely. I do believe Alan. And when I hear that, I feel connected, I feel appreciated, important, valued. I feel relieved, confident, enthusiastic, hopeful, optimistic, motivated, not alone, relaxed, and grateful. Like, wow, look how many emotions you have just from that conversation. And I said, what can you do when you feel all those emotions? He said, I can attend, respond, and engaged. So here we have a conversation that, obviously the first time it takes a little longer because people have to learn how to maneuver and guide through these emotions and be focused on their experience. But as people practice over and over again, it becomes really simple for people to have these conversations. They're no longer afraid to have these conversations. And they are really focusing on creating a connection, repairing the connection in the relationship. And that's what we want. We want to repair the connection in the relationship first and foremost before we resolve what do we need to do next. Again, if you do not repair the connection, the prefrontal cortex is not accessible to us. So it will be very difficult for us to even think about different options that we might have with, dealing with this problem. But once the prefrontal cortex is accessible and once the amygdala is relaxed, wow, now we have myriads of options to, to pick from to address and resolve these problems. Okay, so I hope this was helpful to you. And you can actually find the EMC Practice Journal on Amazon if you want to use it and try it out. You can come to our next Tuesday again, Talk It Through Tuesday, and bring your own experience, example, and we'll help you to talk it through. And you can also take our EMC Masterclass or read the books, Emotional Connection. And we have a lot of information on emcleaders.com website. We are here to help you, to support you, and we want you to know you can repair relationships at work. You don't have to be stuck in these terrible negative cycles. Thank you for joining us. Bye bye.